All right, intro to algebra students. Welcome to our one of our first days of remote learning here on this week of Thanksgiving. So what I have for you guys is I put together a video and some notes to go over the lessons we're doing today. So we're starting in Unit 4. This is going to be our last unit of the semester. So today we got lessons 4.1 and 4.2. All right, and Unit 4 has to do with all about fractions. Okay, so we're just going to go over some different parts of fractions and some different operations with fractions. So you might be thinking, I really don't like fractions at all. That is fine. A lot of people feel that way. I totally understand. But we're going to go through all the different parts of fractions and how to do different operations. So as you're watching this video, you might find that you don't need this information because you already know what I'm going to be presenting in 4.1 and 4.2. That is totally fine. If you don't feel like you need to watch it all, then don't do it. You can go right to the Apex assignments for today in Google Classroom. So we're just going to kind of cover everything. Basic review of fractions today. So if you need the information, great. If you don't, then that is fine too. I completely understand. All right. And just like all of our Apex lessons, the units we've done so far, it starts off pretty slow and pretty basic. So it's just going to give us a really nice, easy introduction to fractions, a nice review. Okay, so with that, let's go ahead and get started here. So first, let's talk about just what a fraction is and what are its parts. Okay, so a fraction, all it really does is it tells us how many parts there are out of the whole thing. Okay, and that thing can be just about anything. All right, I like to use pizza because it's delicious, so I kind of like to refer that to a thing. But it could be like anything at all. It could deal with money. It could deal with how far you travel, whatever. Okay, so it's how many parts there are out of a whole entire something. Okay, so here's our first example. We got our example of a fraction here, 3/4, and we got a picture of what 3/4 is representing. So we got this delicious pizza. Looks like there's a slice missing. And if you take a look, the 3 up here tells us how many parts there are. So we have 3 parts, 3 slices of this pizza left. And originally, if you look at this last slice here, originally in the whole entire pizza, there was 4 slices altogether. So this is the whole part, the whole thing of the pizza, and then this is how many parts we can actually see. So it's the parts out of the whole entire thing. All right, and our fraction has some different names for the different parts that we see up here for the fraction. The first thing we have is the numerator. Okay, this is simply just our number on top. All right, so right here, this 3 would be our numerator. Okay, that's just the official word for this number up here on top of the fraction. And the 3, the numerator, represents our part. Okay, so that represents how many parts there actually is. Okay, and then the denominator for a fraction, this is just simply our number that is on the bottom of our fraction. So this 4 would be our denominator. Okay, and it just tells us how many make up the whole entire thing. Okay, again, like I said in the beginning, this might be some stuff you already know, and you don't need this information. We're just kind of reviewing everything with fractions as we start this unit. Okay, and the fraction bar this is our line that separates our numerator and denominator. Okay, so it's a line in this fraction bar. What this actually means is division. Okay, so this fraction bar actually tells us division. Okay, which is going to bring us into the next thing we're going to talk about with fractions. So let's check it out. Okay, really what a fraction is, it is actually just a division problem. Okay, that is all that a fraction is. It just simply means that something is getting divided, and instead of it written like a regular division problem with a division sign like this, it can also be written as a fraction. All right, so how this fraction would read as a division problem, it reads from the top going down. Okay, so from the top this way. And how this would read is 3. Your fraction bar means divided by, so it's 3 divided by 4. All right, that's how it would read. 3 being divided by 4. Okay, and our 3 is, like we talked about in the previous screen, the number up on top is our numerator, and then we got our fraction bar, and then we have our number on the bottom, which is our denominator. Okay, so we always have the numerator divided by the denominator. Okay, so if I set this up into a standard division problem so it looks nice and normal, like with a division sign, it would look like this. We would have n, our numerator, divided by our denominator. Okay, now it's written more like a normal division problem. So this way it's written vertically as a fraction showing division, and then this way it's written horizontally using our normal division. So let's take these two numbers and write them as a division problem. We're going to have 3 divided by 4. So the numerator always goes first. So it's 3 divided by 4. Okay, and we just want to see what that equals. Now that's going to give us a decimal number that's going to be less than 0. So if you put that in your calculator, all right, I know the division problem looks backwards right now, but take 3 divided by 4 in your calculator, and you're going to end up with 0.75. Okay, so when we actually divide those numbers, it changes our fraction into a decimal number. All right, so we're going to go through some other examples of that. We're going to take fractions, write them as a standard division problem, and then divide them and see what we get for a decimal answer. Okay, so let's take a look at these examples here. So all of these fractions, all fractions everywhere, are actually just a division problem that is written vertically. Okay, and you always have your numerator on top and your denominator on the bottom. So it's your numerator divided by your denominator. Okay, so we'd have n divided by d, your denominator. Okay, so if I use the numbers to write this out, this division problem written horizontally would be 1 divided by 2. Okay, and we'll see what that equals. All right, and the reason I write these letters down each time is to help myself stay organized, because a very common mistake that people will do is they want to write 2 divided by 1. All right, I see that happen all the time in all the years that I've been doing this. Okay, so if you label what your numerator and denominator are and then write it like this, it'll help you stay organized, because your mind automatically wants to write 2 divided by 1. All right, it does. Your mind just wants to think that way. I don't know why, but it just does. Okay, so this helps us make sure it's written correctly. Put that into your calculator, so you're going to get 0.5 when you put that in there. Okay, so that would be our decimal number for 1/2, comes out to 0.5. All right, let's try a couple more. So we got this fraction here. I'm going to label it again because it gets my mind thinking which numbers need to go first. So I got my numerator over top of the denominator. So it's always numerator divided by denominator. Okay, so then I'll write this out. So I'm going to have 2 divided by 3. Okay, write it out like that because it's easy to get these turned around. So 2 divided by 3, and when you put that into your calculator, you're going to get a long series of numbers repeating. All right, you're going to get a whole bunch of 6s, and then probably somewhere at the end of your calculator, you're going to get a 7. All right, because your calculator rounds up. All right, this would be a repeating decimal. Okay, because all we're going to do is get 6s forever and ever and ever and ever. All right, your calculator doesn't have enough room, so it rounds the last one up to a 7, but it really would just be a whole bunch of 6s. So to shortcut that, so we don't have to write a whole bunch of 6s, we would just write 0.66 and put a line over top, and that's just a math symbol that says that the 6s are going to keep repeating forever and ever and ever. Okay, so it's going to be, it's a symbol that tells us it's a repeating decimal. All right. So then we'll try our last one here. We got one more to do. We'll set it up the same exact way. All right, we have our numerator over top of our denominator. Okay, so then if we're going to write it as a division problem, numerator divided by denominator. Okay, so now we'll just put our numbers in there and see what that comes out to. Okay, so we're going to have 7 divided by 8. Okay, and that's going to get us 0.875. All right, so that one had 3 numbers with it. Okay. Hopefully that worked out for you guys. I'm going to have you guys try a few on your own, and then we'll take a look at what answers you come up with. Okay, so take a look at these ones. Do these 3 on your own, see what you get. Pause the video, and when you're done, hit play, and we'll take a look at what answers you came up with. All right, let's see what this came out to, everyone. Okay, so if we do our first one, 3 divided by 5, notice how I labeled everything and I wrote it out correctly. So that should get us 0.6. Okay, and then for this one here, we got 4 divided by 9. All right, if we write it out, that's going to get us 0.44. Okay, and then our last one, we got 7 over 10. Write it out, it's going to be 7 divided by 10, and that's going to get us 0.7. Okay, so hopefully those worked out for you guys. There's our first part of 4.1. Let's talk about the next thing we're going to look at. And we're going to take a look at what happens when fractions have zeros. What type of answer do we get when we divide them? Okay, so let's take a look at the first thing that could happen. So notice we have a 0 up here on top, and on the top we have our numerator, and down below we have our denominator. Okay, so we got a 0 as a numerator. So when a fraction has a 0 as a numerator, the answer is always going to be 0. Okay, no matter what number you have down here, it's always going to come out to 0. So if I take and divide this out, I'm going to have 0 divided by 5, and that's going to get me just 0. All right, every single time, no matter what number this happens to be here. Okay, so let's take a look at what happens if our 0 actually switches and now it is the denominator. Okay, so now it's down here on the bottom. So when a fraction has a 0 as a denominator, we don't actually get an answer for this. So this type of situation, the answer we would get is called undefined. Okay, is the official math term for it. Undefined. Basically, it just means we don't know. Okay, we don't know what the answer is. So in math, we're going to call that undefined. All right, so try it. Put this in your calculator, see what happens. All right, I tried it in 3 different calculators. I tried my iPhone, I tried a fancy graphing calculator that costs like $100, and then I tried just a regular cheap calculator that I have here in the classroom. All right, and if you do that, if I take this here, if I take 7 divided by 0, no matter what calculator I used, I end up with an error message. All right, meaning that the calculator can't figure out what number it's supposed to be because we don't know what number it's supposed to be. We don't know what this answer would come out to. All right, so it's undefined. Okay, so kind of interesting. All right, so that's fractions with zeros. What would happen if you had a 0 as a numerator or a denominator? Okay, and the last thing we want to take a look at in 4.1 is equivalent fractions. Okay, so these are fractions that are equal to each other. They just look different. Okay, so if we take a look at our examples here, man, notice how we got this delicious pizza up here again. All right, so all of these fractions look different. We have 4/8, we have 2/4, and we have 1/2, but they're all exactly the same. All right, all of these are the same exact amount, even though they have different numbers. Okay, take a look at our pizza slices here. They all represent the same amount of pizza, even though they are different. All right, so it's equivalent fractions are the same exact fraction. They're the same exact thing. It's just written with different numbers. Okay, so all of these have different numbers that they're written with, but they're all the same exact fraction. So let's take a look at how we would go about making some equivalent fractions. Okay, so if we're going to create an equivalent fraction, so let's say we got like 1/4 here. We wanted to make some fractions that are the same as 1/4. All right, so to create equivalent fractions, all we're simply going to do is we're going to multiply the numerator and denominator by the same number. Okay, as long as we do that, then we're going to end up with an equivalent fraction. Okay, so let's take a look at how that would work. So let's say we have 1/4 here, and we want to make a fraction that is equal to 1/4. That's going to be the same. All right, all you got to do is choose a number to multiply both of the numerator and denominator by, and it needs to be the same number. And it can be any number you want to. All right, let's just start with a basic one. Let's go with 2. So let's put a times 2 up above the equal sign and below the equal sign to show that we're going to multiply the numerator by 2 and the denominator by 2. And if we do that, we're going to write our answer over here. We're going to come up with 2 over top of 8. Okay, and we just made our first equivalent fraction here. So 2/8 is the same exact fraction as 1/4. It's just written with different numbers. And how we created that is we multiplied our numerator and denominator by the same number. Okay, it absolutely has to be the same number or it doesn't work. Okay, let's try another one. So we can create all types of equivalent fractions to 1/4 simply by choosing different numbers to multiply by. Let's go with 3 with this one. So we can go multiply the top by 3 and the bottom by 3, the numerator and denominator. So if we end up doing that, multiply straight across up here, we get 3 and 12. So there is another equivalent fraction to 1/4. This is the same exact thing as 1/4. It's just written using different numbers. Okay, we'll try a couple more here. So just pick any number you want to for 1/4. Let's go with the next one maybe. Let's just go with 4. All right, as long as you're multiplying the top and the bottom by the same number, then you're okay. All right, so if we multiply that out, we're going to get 4 over top of 16. Okay, so there's an equivalent fraction to 1/4. All right, let's try one more. Okay, let's just go a little wild here. Let's pick a number that might be way out there a bit. Let's go with like 7. So 7 and 7. We're going to multiply both the numerator and denominator by 7. Okay, so if we do that, we're going to end up with 7 over top of 28. Okay, still is the same exact fraction as 1/4. It's just an equivalent fraction. So it just looks different, but it's the same thing. All right, I got something for you guys to try. See if you can make your own equivalent fractions. Okay, so take a look at 2/3 here. I want you to come up with 4 different equivalent fractions for 2/3. Okay, multiply both the top and the bottom by the same number for each one of those. Okay, go ahead and try that. Pause the video, hit play when you're done, and we'll take a look at what you got. Okay, let's see what it is you guys came up with. Now, you might not have the same answers as me because maybe you chose some different numbers to multiply by. That's fine. Okay, here's what I did. So I started with multiplying both of them by 2, so I got 4/6. The next one I multiply both by 3, I got 6/9. And this one down here I multiply both by 4, so I got 8/12. And this last one here, I just went with 8s. All right, I just picked something random there. So I went with 8 and I got 16/24. Okay, so there's my equivalent fractions there. Okay, and the last thing we want to look at for 4-1 is checking to see if two fractions are equivalent or not. So let's take a look at what that would be by that. Okay, so if we got these examples, like these are written here, we want to check if these are actually equivalent fractions. Is 2/5 and 16 or 6/15 the same? Are they equivalent? So that's what we want to check. Okay, and you can do that. You can identify them as being equivalent. You want to check to see if both the numerator and the denominator were multiplied by the same number. Okay, that's what we're checking. Did 2 and 5 get multiplied each by the same number to get this new fraction over here? That's what we're checking. Okay, so here's what you got to do. You got to look at it and identify what number got multiplied by to get this number over here. So to go from 2 to 6, we got to multiply by 3. All right, and check to see if this number also got multiplied by 3. From to go to 5 to 15, yes, that needs to get multiplied by 3 also. So we end up with 6/15. So this one works out. All right, those are equivalent fractions because 2/5, the numerator and denominator got multiplied by 3 to get 6/15. Okay, so check this one over here. We'll take a look, see if both of these got multiplied by the same number, the numerator and denominator. To go from 3 to 14, I'm not quite sure what gets multiplied to go to 3 to 14. And sometimes you'll run into that. Sometimes you look at it and be like, oh, I don't know what that is. Okay, so I'm going to check this one down here. All right, 4 to 16. To go from 4 to 16, I need to multiply by 4. Okay, so 4 times 4 gets me 16. So then I'm going to check this up here. If I try 4 up here, 3 times 4 ends up getting me 12, and it doesn't get me 14. Okay, so this one, these two are not equivalent. Okay, because this 14 would have to be a 12 for it to be an equivalent fraction. Okay, but it's not. All right, they both have to get multiplied by the same number. So 3 got multiplied by something else to get 14. It definitely wasn't a 4. Okay, let's check what else we got here. So here we have 7/9. We want to see if it's an equivalent fraction to 42/45. Okay, so let's take a look. To go from 7 to 42, if you're not good with your multiplication, just try some different numbers till you make it work. 7 times 6 is going to get you 42. Okay, so if these are equivalent, that means this 9 also has to be multiplied by 6. So 9 times 6, does not get me 45. It actually gets me 54. Okay, so it doesn't work. All right, because this is actually times 5. 9 times 5 would get you 45. Okay, so not an equivalent fraction because this is getting multiplied by 6. This is getting multiplied by 5. So no, it doesn't work. All right, we'll take a look at our last one. We got 1/3, and we're checking if 9/27 is equivalent. Okay, so if we take a look and see, 1 times 9 is 9. Now we got to check to see, this would also have to be times 9 to make it be equivalent. So 3 times 9 gets us 27. So yes, it does work. They're both getting multiplied by 9. So that would be an equivalent fraction. So we can label that as yes. All right. Try a few on your own, see what it is you come up with. All right, so take a look at these and identify if these are actually equivalent fractions or not. So pause the video, and then we'll take a look at your answer, or hit play when you're ready to check your answers. Okay, let's take a look and see what you guys got. Okay, so for this one here, this one is a no. We got 3 times 3 is 9, but 2 times 3 does not come out to 7, all right? It would actually be 6, so this one didn't work out, all right? This one over here is a no also. Okay, 3 times 5 got us 15, and then down here they're going 10 times 2 to get 20, all right? So they're not multiplying by the same numbers, so a no on that one. This one turns out to be a yes. They're both getting multiplied by 8. And this one turns out to be a yes also, because both your numerator and denominator are getting multiplied by 3. All right, so hopefully that worked out for you guys. That's the end of 4.1 video. So here's what you guys got as far as some work to do. So I don't have any checkups for you guys to do on Apex today. So I'm just going to have you guys do just the quizzes. So you got these 2 quizzes to do from 4.1. When you get done with those, check out the video for lesson 4.2, and if you feel like you need to watch it, go for it. If you feel like you're okay with doing the work, then jump right to the work, and I'm going to have you guys do these 2 quizzes from 4.2. Okay, that is it. Thanks for watching. Get the quizzes done, hit the 4.2 video, and then move on to the 4.2 quizzes.